안녕하세요 여러분, 엠쌤입니다. Hi everyone, Margarita here, and today we're going to be going over some Korean verbs that have more than one meaning. And no, I'm not gonna go over every single verb in the Korean language, which it may seem like from the first sight that all of them can be translated in multiple ways, but this is where I preface this entire video that whenever you deal with language-to-language translation, obviously there's going to be situations where you can translate one verb that has just one clear definition into multiple sort of similar definitions in another language. Like with the verb 먹다, to eat. You can translate it as eat, but you can also say consume, and you can also kind of say ingest, even though Korean has perfectly fine verbs for both of these English verbs. Basically, today we're actually looking at verbs that have very distinct multiple meanings. I'm only gonna go over 3 verbs today for the sake of not blowing your brains up, but if you want me to make part 2 or 3 or 4 to this video, I absolutely don't mind. I have a ton of resources like this big boy topic textbook that actually has its own section for paleo, which are verbs that has multiple meanings in Korean. Literally 7 pages of just these verbs. So if you want me to do a deep dive on any of these, I'll be happy to do that too. And now, on to our 3 super simple Korean verbs that have multiple meanings. Let's go! Kacha! The first verb I actually have already mentioned. It is no other than 먹다, which all of us know means to eat. But did you know that it has so many other definitions? I mean, obviously the first one that I get from this textbook, and by the way, all the definitions are in Korean in this textbook, so good luck! Of course, the first one is 입을 통하여 폐 속에 들여보내다. So whatever flows through your mouth and into the inside of your stomach. So 밥을 먹다, 물을 먹다. Yes, you can actually use the verb 먹다 with liquid substances. Water, coffee, juices. Of course, Korean has a perfectly fine verb for to drink, 마시다. But are you gonna be wrong saying 물을 먹다? No, actually not. The second definition of this verb, according to this textbook, I actually have a slight problem with just the way they phrase it in Korean. They said 감정을 가지다. 감정 is like feelings or emotions, and 가지다 means to have or to own something, to be in possession of something. So to have feelings is essentially another definition of 먹다, which I would kind of disagree with, because I think what they're referring to here is this set phrase 마음을 먹다, 마음을 먹었어요, which means to have made up your mind. You can use it in a sentence like 마음을 먹었으면 못할 일이 없다. If you make up your mind, there is absolutely nothing you can't do. The third definition of the verb 먹다 actually has to do with your age, and it is 나이를 보태다. 나이를 보태다 means to accumulate age. 나이 is age, and 보태다 basically means to replenish or to add up something. So basically, 나이를 먹다 means to grow older. This is where all the definitions of this verb end in this particular textbook, but I've actually seen the verb 먹다 be used in many other situations, and of course with the spread of slang and colloquialisms, there's gonna be usages of verbs that are not actually technically grammatically correct, but this one I think is pretty up there in terms of very widespread uses of the verb 먹다, and that is 욕을 먹다, to get cursed at. 욕 is swearing or cursing, and then 욕을 먹다 basically means that you're eating swearing that other people are throwing at you, which I personally experience a lot in the comment sections of some of my videos. But you know what? It's okay. Happy people don't swear at other people, so if there are certain people who decide to spill over their negativity onto others, they're probably going through a very tough time, and I don't mind if they vent a little bit and it helps them make their day a little better. I don't mind. They still shouldn't do it, but I don't mind. Another use of the verb 먹다 for a different purpose I've noticed in a sentence 돈을 먹다 or 돈 먹다, which I believe means to take a bribe. Obviously there's a perfectly fine phrase in Korean that means to take a bribe, which is 뇌물 받다. 뇌물 is an actual bribe, 받다 to receive, but I think 돈 먹다 also can be used for accepting a bribe. All of you native speakers and Korean teachers, please let me know if I'm correct or not. Alright, moving on to our word number 2, which is 보다. Super simple. I mean, who does not know the verb 보다? And of course, the first definition that comes to mind is to see, or to watch, or to look. See, we're already facing this little dichotomy between English and Korean where one word in Korean, 보다, can actually mean all of these different verbs in English. Of course, you can get a lot more specific with Korean as well, but obviously the first definition is, as we said, 눈으로 보다, to look or watch or see with your eyes. But I feel like 보다 is one of those verbs in Korean where, depending on whatever noun it's connected to, its meaning might actually change slightly. For example, if I'm saying 영화를 봤어요, I'm obviously using it in a sense where I've watched a movie. But when I'm saying 책을 보다, that can be described as reading a book. I mean, obviously you're looking at a book or you're seeing a book, but you are probably talking about you reading a book, unless you're really saying like, oh, I see a book, it's right there. That's where we start paying attention more to the context of the sentence, obviously. But nevertheless, think of 보다 as a verb whose primary definition has to do anything with whatever your eyes do, whether they're watching or looking or seeing. You get the gist. The second definition is quite interesting though, which is synonymous with the Korean verb 진찰하다, which means to examine something or someone. So 환자를 보다 means to see a patient or to examine a patient. And what do you do when you examine a patient? You kind of look at them. So it makes sense. The third definition of 보다 is even more interesting. And here I got a little bit confused because the definition they gave was 물건을 사다, which basically means to buy things. But you can't just say like 사과를 보다. Like that wouldn't mean to buy an apple, that would mean to look at an apple or to see an apple. But there is a set phrase in Korean, I believe, that goes like 장을 보다, which means to go get groceries. And in my mind that is so clever because 장 means either a leaf or a page or a sheet of paper. I think it's actually a counter for anything leafy or papery. Also, by the way, if you hear sounds of the rain on the background, don't be alarmed. It is raining quite heavily, as it does in London most of the times. From my research, 장을 보다 means to do grocery. And I think that is super clever, because what do you do when you get groceries? You write a grocery shopping list on a piece of paper. Of course, if you are a little bit more than a beginner in Korean learning, you would know that 보다 has a completely separately different usage even in Korean, almost as a compound grammatical expression that you add on to another verb to mean to try something. 먹어봐요. Try eating this. Or 가봐야겠다. I should try and go, or like I should go. That definition was not given in this particular textbook, and I see why, because here 보다 does not really mean anything on its own. Only when you add it to another verb, that's when it just enriches that verb with its own meaning of to try or to attempt something. So I see why they wouldn't include it. But also, for all of you very, very clever Korean learners out there, there is actually a completely different word, 보다, in Korean that totally has nothing to do with the verb. It's an adverb of its own and it means more of something. So here's some extra info for you guys. Alright, the last verb for today is once again super common, everybody knows it, and it is 입다. And obviously the first meaning that comes to our mind is yep, 옷을 몸에 두르다, to wrap our body with clothes. Of course, 옷을 입다 is the most common way of using the verb 입다, but did you know that it also has a second definition of 상처를 당하다, which basically means to get injured in a sense, or to get an injury. I don't think that it can be particularly used for every single type of injury or scar or pain or wound, but a very, very common expression, 마음의 상처를 입다, which basically means to suffer a heartbreak. When somebody breaks your heart, you essentially wear that wound on your heart. So I can kind of see where the meaning comes from, and I think it's quite poetic and also very sad. The third definition of 입다, according to this textbook, is 도움을 받다, which means to receive help, which I've actually never heard 입다 being used in that sense, and here they give an example of 은혜를 입다. 은혜 is like a favor or almost like a debt to someone else. So 은혜를 입다 essentially means to be indebted to someone, indebted. I think that's the actual pronunciation in English. My bad. English is not my first language. But yeah, 은혜를 입다 essentially means to be indebted to someone or to owe a favor to someone, which I had no idea that was an actual use of 입다. So I learned something new today, together with you guys. Yay! And with that said, this is the end of today's video. I do not want to overwhelm your brain with any more of these verbs. As I said, I have a 7-page long list full of these words. If you want me to go into more complex ones and slightly more advanced ones, or the ones which just have like bajillions of meanings. So if you want to see more of these videos, please leave a comment in the comment section, and also just share with me any other definitions of these verbs that you may know, any other interesting facts about Korean verbs that you know. Share them all in the comment section. Let's make it an awesome learning environment for all of us. I am really excited to learn something new from you guys, because I always do. You're all so smart. And with that said, I hope all of you are having the most wonderful day, whether it is raining like crazy or there's sunshine where you are. I hope this day is gonna be lovely for you and you're looking forward to the weekend. Yay! Alright guys, bye! 안녕!